There was a time no one noticed him. No one cared where he went, what he was doing, or what was happening inside him. He wasn't the loudest in the room. He wasn't the guy everyone cheered for. In fact, most people overlooked him. Not because he wasn't capable, but because he didn't fit the image they had of greatness. They thought he had no fire, no spark, no future. But what they didn't know is that some men don't scream when they're in pain. They rebuild in silence, in solitude, and they wait for the right moment to reintroduce themselves. He was the man who got tired of proving his worth to people who only saw his flaws. He gave up trying to explain himself to those who were committed to misunderstanding him. So he turned inward, into the shadows, into the darkness, into the uncomfortable corners of life where most people are afraid to sit alone. He went there, willingly, and while the world thought he was lost, he was writing the chapters they would one day beg to read. They called him a ghost, a failure, a man who disappeared. But he wasn't gone. He was working, not on noise, but on depth. He was unlearning the lies they taught him. That his worth came from validation, that his success needed applause, that his dreams required permission. He knew that silence was a weapon, that stillness was power, and that a man with discipline in the dark will always become dangerous in the light. He sacrificed comfort for clarity. He gave up temporary pleasure for permanent strength. He walked away from the parties, the distractions, the fake support, the cheap compliments, all of it, because he knew something deeper was calling him, something raw, something sacred. He knew that the man who walks through fire alone will always be feared by those who never left the crowd. And so he walked, alone, unseen, but not weak, not broken. He was becoming someone no one could recognize, not even the version of him who first began the journey. There were nights he couldn't sleep, not because of fear, but because of hunger, not the kind that food could fix, but the kind that purpose awakens. He was starving for discipline, starving for revenge, not on people, but on the life that tried to bury him. He wanted to come back so hard that even the mirror wouldn't believe it. He wanted to become so strong, so calculated, so untouchable, that his past would shiver just remembering what it once tried to do to him, and he did. Slowly, quietly, he mastered his mornings. He attacked his goals in silence. He stopped waiting for motivation. He built habits, routines, rules. He rewired his mind to no longer crave ease. He made pain his teacher. He made loneliness his gym. He made silence his strategy. And as the months passed, something changed. Not outside, but inside. His posture, his eyes, his energy. It became different. Heavy, focused, respected. Even if no one saw it yet, he did. And that's all that mattered. While they laughed, he worked. While they slept, he planned. While they doubted, he documented everything. Every small win, every inner breakthrough, every tear turned into discipline. Every scar turned into armor. And every time he wanted to give up, he looked at the version of himself he promised to become and kept going. Not for revenge, not for applause, but for redemption. Because he knew he didn't want to return to who he used to be. He wanted to bury that version. Forever, he wasn't built in the spotlight. He wasn't crafted by comfort. He was forged in silence, shaped by shadows, molded by moments no one clapped for. And that's why his comeback wasn't loud. It was undeniable, unshakable. When he returned, people didn't recognize him. His aura spoke louder than words. His presence silenced the room. He didn't need to say anything. He didn't need to explain. His results walked in first, and they did all the talking. The same people who once doubted him couldn't make eye contact. The ones who laughed now watched in silence. They didn't know how to respond. Because how do you respond to a man who did the impossible quietly? How do you look at someone who used his lowest season to build his highest self? How do you understand someone who left broken and returned unbreakable? He didn't come back to impress anyone. He came back to fulfill a promise. The promise he made to himself the night he hit rock bottom. The night he cried alone. The night no one called. The night the world moved on and forgot he existed. That night he swore he'd return, but not the same, not desperate, not broken, not apologizing for his dreams, but powerful, whole, respected, unstoppable. Now, every step he takes is intentional. Every word he speaks is calculated. Every move he makes is backed by hours of silent preparation. He is no longer seeking validation. He doesn't need anyone to believe in him, because he finally believes in himself. And that belief, that deep, immovable belief, makes him dangerous, not to others, but to mediocrity, to comfort, to the version of himself that almost gave up. The man who was replaced became irreplaceable. The man they forgot became unforgettable. The man they tried to break became unbreakable. And the man who built himself in the dark now walks in the light with a fire they'll never be able to put out, because the world never sees the process. They only see the product. They don't witness the nights you wrestle with your own mind. They don't see the mornings you rise with sore bones but a burning heart. They don't feel the weight you carry alone. They only react when your name echoes louder than their doubt. But he doesn't need them to understand anymore. He's not here to be understood. He's here to be undeniable. He's not trying to prove anything. He is the proof. He's not trying to return to who he used to be. He killed that man. This version is rebuilt, refined, reborn now. He walks differently, talks differently, moves differently, because he's carrying the weight of every silent battle he won. And even though no one clapped for those victories, he knows. Deep inside, he knows what it cost. He knows the nights he chose progress over pleasure. He knows the mornings he chose focus over comfort. And he knows what it means to sacrifice who you are for who you could become. The light doesn't scare him anymore. The crowd doesn't distract him. The noise doesn't faze him, because when you've been built in the dark, nothing outside of you can break you. You've already faced your own demons. You've already fought your own mind. And you came out with scars, not for sympathy, but as proof that pain was your currency. And now you're wealthy in wisdom. So to the man still building in the shadows, don't rush, don't explain, don't beg to be seen. Your silence is your weapon. Your consistency is your advantage. And your patience is your crown. Let the world sleep on you. Let them doubt. Let them talk. Because one day, just like him, you'll walk into the light and shock them all. Not because you need to, but because you promised yourself you would.